Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the East Hampton Village Board meeting. Today is July 30th, 2021, and before we get started, we have a long meeting, but before we get started, if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. So welcome back. We're back to live meetings. Feels good. The last live meeting I think we had was in November, so it's really nice to be back in person and work out these kinks. So before we get going, I wanted to just give some announcements of what's been going on in the village. We're halfway through summer, which is incredible. And for those of you who don't know, our fiscal year, the village's fiscal year, runs until July 31st. So our new year starts August 1st. So this meeting will close out our fiscal year. I don't know what's happening there. So I wanted to recap some of the initiatives that the village has been taking part in. We've really created, Herrick Park has become a venue, basically, for our village events. And we've had Shakespeare in the park. We have a market taking place in the park. You think?
No,
Turn it off.
Even worse.
Yeah, Jerry, why don't you just push it away? That should,
Here comes Jody.
I'm gonna technical difficulty, Jody.
All the dogs with cats in the area are going.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah. That's better. Do they work? Hello?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. All right. So we've had a lot of things going on in our park. We had Shakespeare in the park. We've had our farmers market in the park. Tomorrow starts our fine arts in the park. The deputy mayor and myself went and met with Dylan's Candy Bar, who has a store on Main Street, and they really sell a lot of candy, but we're really trying to get them to go forward with ice cream this summer, which they've done a great job. So you'll drive by there, you see their blue chairs and white tables out front, and we have Moo-Moo's on North Main Street, who's doing a great job with ice cream sales. And the reason I bring it up is because we lost Scoop last year, and people have been complaining about wanting ice cream back in our village. So this has been a hot topic for us, so we've encouraged Dylan's to actually have an ice cream, to focus more on ice cream, and she's doing a great job for us. The music at Main Beach has been overwhelming success. We have 10 Tuesday nights. Last Tuesday was unbelievable night. We had over almost 1,000 people on the beach, and it's really wonderful to see all the families and friends that you haven't seen in a long time, and everybody's really enjoying it. And we had a special guest just pop out of the crowd who was a finalist on American Idol, and she got up there and belted out a song. It was an incredible night. So if you haven't gone, you should really come down and see that. It's a lot of fun. Starting Tuesday the 3rd, we're going to have Peter and the Wolf from, what ballet company is that?
Hampton's Ballet.
Hampton's Ballet in the park, doing Peter and the Wolf.
Peter and the Wolf.
And the star of the show
Lauren Rosario. No,
is Sandra's daughter. So
Not really, but
that should be a lot of fun.
she's part of it. Yes.
The Mayor's Youth Council has been out every Wednesday cleaning up the village for us. They've been doing a great job. Maddie's, Rose's daughter is in that group, and they've been doing a great job for the village, so we're proud of them. And moving forward, we have a great, let me back up. We had a wonderful Lifeguard Tournament. I'm going to let the Deputy Mayor tell you about that real quick.
Okay, welcome everybody. Last week we had a Main Beach Lifeguard Tournament, which we normally have every year, but last year was postponed for COVID. So that was me. So this past tournament was the biggest. Jody? This past. Good?
Keep talking.
This past tournament, we, I think, had the biggest tournament we've had in about 20 years, or forever, to be honest with you. We had over 20 teams, hundreds of competitors. The beach was packed. I would just like to say thank you to a couple people. DPW did an amazing job helping us set up. There was so much behind the scenes, so Dave, thank you so much. That was, without you guys, we couldn't have done it. Also, thank you, it was great. The PD helped us out a lot too with the lights and the bleachers and the crowd and traffic control. So thank you to PD and the beach staff as well. I mean, we couldn't have pulled this off without the great beach staff we have up there. So I know when we have Captain Lifeguard Drew Smith here, who's integral part of everything that goes up there. And Drew, you guys are doing such a great job today. Really, it's been amazing. So Drew, thank you. And so we had a great turnout at the beach. The town is very happy with us. I mean, John Ryan and John Ryan Jr., they've said it was the best one they've ever hosted. So it was a great success, and we look forward to many more. So there you go.
Thanks. So, moving that forward, we had such a great tournament for the flag competition, which is the premier event of the Lifeguard Tournament, which we'll get into a little bit later. But what we decided to do was have a Battle at the Beach Lifeguard Volleyball Tournament, which will take place on August 9th at 5 p.m. up at Main Beach. So the PD came up with the lights and the bleachers, and it made like a mini stadium on the beach, and it was really fantastic. So we wanted to go a little further, so now we're going to start this annual Battle at the Beach against the village and town lifeguards. We'll battle it out in a volleyball game. So it'll be a lot of fun for that. Hope you can join us for that. August 21st, we have the Artist-Writers softball game in Herrick Park. That's you can't miss that game. That's a lot of fun. Also on August 21st, we have our annual fireworks show, which will take place at Main Beach. We're going to be starting at 6 p.m. this year because we have some surprises. We have two bands that are going to play from 6 to 8:30, and then the fireworks will begin at 8:30. That's all free, so hopefully people can attend. It's going to be a wonderful night. We've started some initiatives that I want to talk about. Airbnb complaints can be forwarded to Ken Cullum, and his direct number is 631-324-0763. So if you live next to an Airbnb and you're having problems, please call that number. We plan on sending out 2 surveys to our village residents, one about the airport, which is a hot topic coming up for the town board, but I would like to get a feeling on how our village residents feel about the airport. So we're going to be sending that survey out to our village residents. We're also going to be sending out an Airbnb survey, and these will take place after Labor Day. So please look for these surveys, please complete them and get them back to us so we can represent the village residents the way you want us to represent you.
Mayor, will they be online as well, the surveys?
Marcos?
They can be.
Yeah, we can get them
That
online.
might be
Yeah. We can do that.
an easy way to do it.
August 1st, which is Sunday, we're going to start a handicap parking enforcement initiative. And if I can ask the chief, just come up quickly and tell us what that's about.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very briefly, this initiative is not something new for us. We did this initiative many years ago when Mayor Larson was a young chief, many years ago. And basically what it was is, in addition to regular enforcement of handicap spots, we put officers at the spots, basically watching them to see what's taking place. And then we give the officers the information from adjoining states. We get a lot of Florida plates, New Jersey plates, Connecticut plates. Different states have different rules, but mostly there are guidelines where the person's license is tied to that placard. So if you're using your mother's placard or your cousin's placard, or you're driving their car and you're caught improperly using that placard, not only are you going to get a very expensive ticket, but we're going to take that placard from you.
Sorry.
And, you okay? And this really was, it's not my idea. It was done many years ago, as I said, and it was very, very successful. We ended up at the end of this last project with a stack of improperly used, placards. And we have found it is very well received by those that are in need of the placards. It is very well received by people that have the placards properly. And when we find someone that is using it improperly and they're asked about it, you can immediately tell who they are because of the response we get back from them. Generally is unpleasant response and a challenge, and then they receive, as a result, the ticket and the loss of the placard. So it's a great thing to do. Right now, we have the manpower to do it. We're going to do it, and we're going to let people know that it's going on. So I think it's a great idea, and I think it'll be very well received. So
Thanks. So one last comment, and then we're going to get into, you could stay up there. So last night I went to a dinner that was hosted by Ron Delsner in honor of Del Cullum. So Del Cullum, as many of you may know or may not know, Del has been a great friend of the village since I became mayor. He's helped us with many projects within the village, and he is currently moving away. So they had this nice tribute dinner for him last night, and I just wanted to say Del has been a great partner of the village, and he is going to be missed. So thank you, Del, for everything you've done and continue to do. So now we're going to move into, Trustee Graham had a suggestion at our last meeting that we bring in the department or the new hires and promotions that we had during COVID. And the board thought that was a good idea, so we could give them a chance to be honored the same way all our other new hires had been honored. So since, Chief, you have most of the new hires and promotions, could you start off?
sure, thank you. We have with us today Mike Reed and Megan Harris. Mike was hired by us in March, and he is a transfer from Southampton Village. And he began his career with Southampton Village in 2011, well-received, well-liked, successful, but a resident of the village for many years. And I feel, and I'm sure he feels, living here and working right here is a very, it's a nice thing to be able to do, as I was able to do many years ago. And he's doing very well. He's fully trained. He stepped right in, took the job fast and with very little, fine tuning, and he's a success right now. But we don't want to just thank him for joining us. Thank you. Congratulations. We also have Megan Harris, who we sponsored actually to the part-time police academy a year ago, November. She graduated from the academy and did very well on the police officer test. She started with us after graduating in May of last year. Again, well-liked, well-respected, did a nice job for us. We hope they reach her on the list. Unfortunately, the village gave us the okay to hire her. She was hired last month at a meeting. Her first day of full-time work is August 1st. So again, congratulations. We recently had a promotion. Jen Dunn, one of our detectives, who prior to becoming a detective was probably one of our most active police officers, and just a tireless worker, comes to work every day. I probably said this a couple of meetings ago when we first introduced. Comes to work every day with a smile on her face, great sense of humor, gets along with everybody, and just has a way of dealing with people that is just, this is one where you want 20 more, just like her working for you. She was promoted to sergeant just recently, and was not able to be introduced to the board because of COVID and the camera and so forth. Some of you know her. She's been with us a number of years. But again, we're very proud of her and very fortunate to be able to put her in that position. And that's what I have today. We had two hires earlier in the summer, if you want me to review Armand and John Clark. They are not able to be here today. One of the officers is out sick and the other one is not in town. But these two young men, I'm going to say, we stole from the Lifeguard Corps. Armand Grittarson was a state lifeguard for many, many years. He came to us, he started working for the village, and he ended up becoming the head lifeguard for Main Beach. And he was very successful. He's a tad older than the other lifeguards. He first came to us when he was working with the village, and I'm going to tell you right now, he had a beard that was out to here, and he had long hair over here. And but again, a born leader, and super good guy. And we sent him to the part-time academy. He came and inquired as to how he could become a part-time officer. So we started out by telling him he probably have to get a haircut and a shave. And we sent him to the academy. He did very well. Again, and he popped out the other end, worked for us, scored well on the test, and we were able to reach him. Similarly, John Clark came to us from the town lifeguard corps. He was a head lifeguard at one of the busy beaches in Montauk. Again, sponsored him for the academy. Same thing. Breezed right through, came out, worked for us. It's very similar personality in dealing with the public. Easy to get along with, well-liked. Again, another home run. And we don't get this all the time, but we've had a really, really good run of getting some super people into the department. It takes a special type of person to do the job the correct way, and that is in dealing with the public. We are public relations. We give people aid. We do medical response. There's a whole bunch of things we do on the East End and then in these departments that big cities don't do. And you need a certain type of personality and a certain way of dealing with people to get that done correctly. So we've been very, very fortunate, and we're running 100% right now. So we appreciate the board's support, and again, congratulations to all our promotions and recent hires.
Thanks, Chief. If I could get those officers to come up front, we're going to have the village clerk swear you in. So if you step up front. Stand over here, and then she'll swear you in.
Raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of, discharge the duties of the office of, and you can state the office, according to the best of my ability. Very nice.
All right, that was terrific. Thank you, everybody. All right, so next up is our Hugh King.
Hi. I just want to announce to everyone that the Village Green walking tours that we've been doing, the last one of the Village Green will be tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Start at Home Sweet Home Museum. It's about an hour. The tour will be led by Juliana Lester, who's done a wonderful job. The thing about Juliana is that she always wants to learn more, and she can't do what I've been doing for 30 years in 10 minutes, but boy, she's pretty close, okay? And then starting August 7th, 14th, 21st, 28th, and September 4th, we'll be doing the Main Street walking tours. Also conducting these tours is Jackie Dunphy and Veronica Mazzina. They were going to be doing the one on August 7th. And then Juliana will be back all up through September 4th. And we have lanterns from the East Hampton Historical Society. Okay. Ronnie Rio, right? We want to talk about Ronnie Rio.
Yes, sir.
Ronnie Rio was mayor between 1971 and 1975. He ran Parsons Electric. Parsons Electric was on Newtown Lane next to East End Hardware. Did you ever go in East End Hardware? Those wonderful black drawers that they had that come out with it, they would pull out. And then upstairs at Christmas time were the toys. The toys, the train sets, the sleds. I never got any of those. Okay. All right, but Ronnie Rio worked next door. Okay. When Ronnie Rio was the mayor of East Hampton, John Lanero, the art teacher from East Hampton High School, put together a poster of the Hook Windmill. And you can look all through it. And we still have that poster today. We sell it at the museum and at the Hook Mill. We purchased the rest of them from Mrs. Lanero. And it's a wonderful, wonderful rendition of the Hook Mill. Well, that was done during Ronald Rio's term. Now, David's going to correct me, but I think Bruce Collins was made Commissioner of Public Works when Ronnie Rio was the mayor of East Hampton. The village board meetings began to be held on the second floor of the police headquarters. Where's that? Not here. On Newtown Lane. Remember, the fire department was put there in 1924, and if you look on the building, it became one of those famous historic landmarks clothing stores. I can't remember which one.
Gucci.
But what is it?
Gucci.
Gucci, yeah, that famous historic landmark Gucci is there now. Well, if you look up top, it says Maidstone Fire Company on there. Then after the fire department moved down here, then the police department were in there. And above there is where the village board meetings were held during Ronald Rio's time. During Ronald Rio's time as mayor, the Code of Ethics was formed, and there was a board of ethics. Unfortunately, Highway Behind the Lots became Toilsome Lane when Ronnie Rio was the mayor. Remember, Kenny Westberg was one of the only two people who didn't sign the petition to change the name, because Highway Behind the Lots is one of the most historic names in the village. Because remember, the town was started where the village is, around the green, and they had the lots going down to Hook Pond and then all the way up to where Toilsome Lane is, and that's why they called it Highway Behind the Lots. But that got changed. Okay. Do you know that during Ronnie Rio's time, they were going to talk about putting a light at the five corners? You know where the five corners are, where the roundabout is now. And they were going to talk to Mr. Wilhelm about cutting his hedge. It didn't work because I used to deliver things to him, and he was not interested. Okay. Do you know that during Ronnie Rio's time, they declined to put a 2-hour limit in the Rudisham parking lot? Okay. And Ronnie Rio supported the bypass. Remember that terrible bypass that was going to bring all these people here? Remember it? Wasn't it awful? Okay. The fire department changed their rules during Ronnie Rio's time, and the chief could become a chief if he was not in the village of East Hampton. In other words, for a while there was a rule you had to live in the village in order to become the chief. The Pondview area acquisition was voted down when Ronald Rio was the mayor, and the village green was put on the National Register of Historic Places. And one more. Now, I'm going to have to leave after. There's no more for me, right?
No.
No, okay.
You're good.
Ronnie Rio was one of the three people in the history of the town and village of East Hampton to do what? Well, the first was Jonathan Baker. The second was Nelson Osborne. And the third was Ronald Rio. They were both the mayor of the village of East Hampton and the supervisor of the town of East Hampton. So, Mayor Larson, there's still hope. Okay.
Thanks, Hugh. And what this is all about, this is the dedication of streets. Did you tell us what street we're dedicating?
I'm sorry. Ronnie Rio lived on Conklin Terrace, right?
Yes.
And we don't know how Conklin Terrace got its name. And by the way, we might as well talk about the next ones. On August 20th, we're going to be talking about James Skidmore and Stephen Marley. James Skidmore lived on Doonmere Lane, and Mayor Stephen Marley lived on the Circle.
Correct.
All right?
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hugh. So those signs have already gone up. Unfortunately, we could not find any family for Mr. Rio, so we will not actually be doing the dedication tomorrow, so this will be the end of that. But next month, there is family for Mr. Skidmore, and there certainly family for the Marley family, which will be in September. So we're looking forward to all of that. Thanks again, Hugh. That was very good. So next, June, could you read the achievement award that we have today?
Oh, sure. July 30th, 2021, Certificate of Achievement presented to Will Schlegel, Lifeguard, 35th Annual Main Beach Lifeguard Tournament, Beach Flag Champion. Whereas the 35th Annual Main Beach Lifeguard Tournament was held on July 22nd, 2021, where hundreds of competitors from 20 Long Island teams competed, and whereas one of our own, Will Schlegel, a second-year lifeguard for the Village of East Hampton, won the beach flag competition. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Mayor Jerry Larson, and Deputy Mayor Chris Minardi, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, do hereby congratulate Will Schlegel, 2021 Beach Flag Champion.
Terrific. Hey, Will and Drew, can you step up to the podium? Let's have a little background on this. Hey, Will, come on over here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, everybody. I've been a lifeguard in the local community for the last 17 years. This tournament was the largest one I've ever seen. We had approximately 266 competitors. There were over 20 teams from all of Long Island. As Deputy Mayor Minardi said, in conjunction with DPW, Town of East Hampton Lifeguards, and East Hampton Village Police, we were able to put together one of the largest scale beach flag pits we've had. Some have even said it's rivaled nationals. And with all the competitors out there, and this was a big competition this year, Will was able to rise above everybody else and bring the largest of the 7 events, bring that title back to the Village of East Hampton at our own tournament. So he's well deserving of all this.
Thanks. If you haven't been to this was the first time I had attended. And it was a lot of fun because it was like I was watching one of my racehorses, you know. And I was the owner of a thoroughbred, and I was watching. He was unbelievable. And you'll see if you go on to, we have the star here today, but if you go on 27 East, you'll see some great photographs of Will winning the tournament at the end. But it was just incredible. Your family should be really proud of you, Will. You're a great kid, and thanks so much. Thank you. All right, next up, and this one is, I don't even know how to start this conversation, but June, why don't you read the proclamation first?
Proclamation in recognition of Robert J. Hefner. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Incorporated Village of East Hampton would like to recognize Robert J. Hefner for his dedication to local history and historic preservation. And whereas from repairing storm damage to the Hook Mill in 1984 with Paul Cullum and Cheryl Dayton, to overseeing the acquisition, preservation, and restoration of countless historic buildings in the village and the town, Bob has been instrumental in saving many local historic treasures. Whereas Robert J. Hefner was the driving force behind the creation of the village's historic districts, legislation protecting buildings of historic significance, the drafting of the village's comprehensive and open space plans, the landmark designation of the Oddfellows Hall and the East Hampton train station, and most recently, the acquisition and restoration of the Domini workshops. Now therefore I, Jerry Larson, Mayor of the Village of East Hampton, on behalf of the Board of Trustees and the residents of the Incorporated Village of East Hampton, express our deepest gratitude to Robert Hefner for his dedication to historic preservation and the history of the Village of East Hampton.
very much, Mayor Larson, the Village Board. That was a well-researched proclamation. I forgot a lot of those. It has been a long time. It's actually 43 years ago. 1978 was my first project with the village, restoring the Panago Mill. That was with Paul Cullum and Bob Menke. And then Cheryl came in. It's very nice that Cheryl is still part of our village family on the Design Review Board. It's been my privilege, really, to do my part in preserving the rich heritage of this village. And some of the projects here, I think the string of, since I was Director of Historic Services, the string of 4 restorations of historic buildings, Thomas Moran, Dominique Shops, Gardner Mill Cottage, and Isaac Osborne House, I think that's shows the dedication to historic preservation on behalf of the village that really isn't equaled, I don't think, any other village in America. It's really an incredible record. Anyway, so thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob. All right, so now we move into our public hearings. And the first one on the agenda, June?
Public hearing with respect to the proposed name change of Cross Road, which runs between Georgia Road and Epiquag, changing the name to Privet Lane.
Okay, does anybody like to be heard on this? Public, board, anybody on the board?
The only thing I'll say about it is that it can be very confusing, especially to EMS and sometimes police, as to which crossroad they're looking for. I know we had a problem some time ago with the ambulance going to a wrong address that I think ended in, unfortunately, in tragedy. I think that if all of the residents of Cross Road, soon to be Privet Lane, are in favor of this, I certainly am as well.
Great. Anyone else?
I'm a resident on Cross Road.
Could you stand up to the podium, just for LTV purposes?
Mr. Mayor, good morning, and thank you to the
Morning, Rob.
board for all of your service. It's really been incredible to see what's occurring in the village day by day, the improvements and the residents and the talk around the coffee shops has just been incredible. And I have been at those events on Main Beach, and they've been really enjoyable, and love to see the participation in the beautiful flower pots on Newtown and Main Street. As I said, my name is Robert Gilman. I'm an East Hampton Village resident. I live on Cross Road, and we have been one of those families that has had the experience of EMS going to the wrong addresses. And I, as long as, and my neighbors are in favor of this name change, and I want to thank you for your service and your continued work as a resident of the village on behalf of all residents. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. All right, does anybody else have any comments? If not, can I get a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed, and hearing's closed. Next hearing, June?
Introductory number 14-2021, proposed amendment of Chapter 185, Licensed Occupations and Entertainment, to address licensing requirements within the Village of East Hampton for caterers by adding Article 5, caterers. Legislative intent. The Village of East Hampton would also like to assist the process associated with event permits and protect the public health, welfare, and safety. By licensing caterers prior to the issuance of event permit applications, the village can ensure that the caterers possess any necessary permits from other governmental agencies, such as the health department permits, and understand the village rules of events independent of the numerous other issues the event permits take into account.
Great, just a little comment on this. Back in the early spring, Deputy Mayor Minardi and myself met with a lot of the local caterers, and this is something they wanted us to move forward, and we agreed with them, and that's how this became a public hearing. Is there anybody who would like to comment? All right, can I get a motion to
Well,
close?
I've got one question, Mayor.
Sure.
When I read through this introductory, I didn't see anything about the caterers being required to have insurance.
Part of the permit, isn't it?
Right, that's
Yeah.
part of the special permit.
That's part of the special permit? Okay, then, fine.
It's
Okay.
also, I think, Tiger keeps them more accountable as well.
No, I'm fine with
Yeah.
that. Yeah, no, I think this is fine.
You know, it's part of the permit. When you fill the permit out,
Right.
they have to submit their
Okay.
money and their insurance.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing's closed.
Introductory number 15-2021, proposed amendments, Chapter 233, sanitary systems to require cesspool septic systems to be replaced with innovative and alternative on-site wastewater treatment systems upon failure. Section 1, legislative purpose and intent. This legislation is intended to implement a requirement that, in addition to all new residents and any substantial improvement to an existing residence, install and maintain an innovative and alternative on-site wastewater treatment system. Failed systems must also be replaced with an innovative and alternative on-site wastewater treatment system. By doing so, the intent is to protect and preserve the village's natural resources and potable water supply, and thereby promote the public health and safety.
All right, anyone like to be heard? How are you doing today?
Very well. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
It's so nice to be back in person.
I know.
I'm Sarah Davison, Executive Director of the Friends of Georgia Capon Foundation. And we are dedicated to preserving the water quality through a watershed-wide approach of Georgia Capon. And I want to start by congratulating the village on putting this legislation forward. Including failed septic systems is very, very important. We're glad you're doing it. I want to remind the board that 68% of the shoreline of Georgia Capon is within the village. So what happens in the village is really critical to the health of Georgia Capon. And upgrading septic systems to these new IA systems is, in fact, the most important thing that homeowners around the pond can do. There are many other things homeowners can do. Use much less fertilizer and organic fertilizer, install vegetative buffers along the edges of the pond, but upgrading their septic systems is really, really important. Now, back in March, I had sent you a letter, and I brought a couple extra copies for the record, just in case it didn't make it into it or whatever. And I had addressed the issue of the shallow drain fields. As you know, with septic treatment, I'm sure you're all septic engineers by now, there's the tank, which are these new tanks, which through a process of moving the wastewater around goes from an aerobic process with oxygen to an anaerobic process, and the nitrogen that's in ammonia and urea is released to the atmosphere as nitrogen gas, harmless nitrogen gas. And so that's the whole difference between the conventional passive gravity-fed systems. You have now an active system. But those tanks are only certified by the county to make a 19 parts of nitrogen level, and that's a huge improvement over the traditional ones. When you add that secondary step, which right now we just have the leaching basins, those big concrete rings you see all over the place, those are just the mechanism for dispersing the liquid. With shallow drain fields and other innovative technologies, you actually disperse the liquid, but you also have a secondary step of nitrogen denitrification and nitrification. And so with a shallow drain field, you can get the nitrogen levels down to 2 and 3. So it's an enormous boost, and ecologically, our ponds, Hook Pond, Georgia Pond, and wetlands, 19 is still quite high for the wildlife and the plant life in those systems, and to get that nitrogen down even lower will have massive long-term positive effects very quickly. So, you know, the village has been leading the way on environmental protection. I mean, the great work you're doing at Town Pond and Hook Pond and Georgica, all the support you've given us at Georgica. I would really strongly urge the board to listen to the science and listen to the experts, the county, Dr. Gobler, the group for the East End, the Nature Conservancy, Friends, and really reconsider and putting back the requirement for shallow drain fields in the legislation. As it was drafted previously, the building inspector had the ability to waive that requirement in certain constrained lots, which there would be a few in the village, but mostly, I think most of the lots in the village could accommodate a shallow drain field very easily. So I would like you to reconsider that. I'm going to just drop off another copy of my letter, and I thank you so much for your great work. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Anyone else?
Yes.
Kathy?
Good morning. It's thrilling to be back in person. I was giddy when I first walked in this room. Look at all these people. So great to see you. I just want to echo everything Sarah said. The Village Preservation Society was one of the first organizations that hosted a low nitrogen. We call it low nitrogen because some of our people think IA converts to AI, which is not innovative alternative. It's artificial intelligence. So we have been calling them low nitrogen systems because that's really the offensive product in our waste. And these shallow drain fields are just another, are a supplemental but really valuable supplemental tool to eliminating this terrifically harmful substance that's been wreaking havoc with our surface water bodies, our fisheries. I mean, you know, scallops, this is why we have no scallops. You know, cut to this, the nitrogen is what feeds all these algal blooms. And our drinking water, our aquifer. We, as you well know, we have a sole source aquifer here, and anything that goes into the water eventually gets into the aquifer, as it does to the surface water bodies. So I want to thank the board, too, for its visionary work. This board has led the way. The present regulation is one of the strictest ones. You know, the town of East Hampton started, but the village followed up and made it even a tighter regulation, which is all to the benefit. The Village Preservation Society is involved in quality of life issues, but if we don't have clean water, we have no quality of life at all. So I would urge you to reinstate these shallow drain fields because as Sarah points out, we recommend the language that would permit the building inspector to make an administrative decision rather than have to send someone to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a variance to say, you know, some lots are constrained, some lots it just doesn't work, but most of them it does. And it adds such a big piece to the denitrification that we would really urge you to reconsider that piece as well. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Kathy. Billy, could you talk to that end about it?
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. Billy Hayjack for the Village of East Hampton. So when we were contemplating changes to the septic code to mandate or further mandate installation of innovative alternative septic systems, we did look at the idea or the concept of mandating shallow drain fields or other technologies that have the same effect. And the result of that research was that we would move forward with tightening our regulation as we currently propose, so that we address the failure situation. And we also, in addition to failures, we're also addressing people who just propose to replace their existing system. So they could have a 4-bedroom system, they could replace it with a 6-bedroom system, and then come in after the fact for a building permit. You know, there were a couple of sneaky situations that we're trying to capture. And this essentially requires all new systems to be innovative alternative. And the next step is to refine, rather than just mandate sort of a generic across the board requirement to mandate shallow drain fields. We're going to look at it a little more strategically and try to figure out where the best locations are for shallow drain fields, which it might be like the 0 to 2 year or the 0 to 10 year travel time We want to refine where we would recommend proposing those, rather than just a kind of an across-the-board mandate. Because originally we were just kind of picking lot sizes, and that may not have been the best, way to target, to reach that goal. So we're working on it. It's an evolving process, and we're going to come back with another recommendation.
All right, so this would be a good start, and then we could add that to the law once you identify that. Okay,
Yep.
I'm good with that.
How big are these drain fields?
It varies in size based on the
So if you have a
technology and the
six-bedroom-
number of bedrooms.
Yeah.
I'm a ballpark. It's roughly like 20 by 30 or 20 by 40 square feet.
So it's not insubstantial.
Yeah, they're not big. They're not substantially big. What we find, people are installing them right now. There are a few that have been installed within the village, and right now it's just a tool in the toolbox. Sometimes they're more fitting than leaching rings. Sometimes they are an added cost, but sometimes if you have to mound your septic system, that requires building concrete retaining walls and bringing in a lot of fill, and it could actually be a cost savings to put in a shallow drain field because there's less grading, there's less construction involved. So people are installing them. It's just not a mandatory requirement right now. But they do a very good job at polishing the effluent. They also remove pharmaceuticals and other things that leaching pools don't do. So we'll be back to you with another
An update.
recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
That's great. Thanks.
Sure.
Anyone else like to be heard? All right, so I'm going to look for a motion.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The meeting's closed. Hearing's closed. All right, so the next thing on our agenda is a discussion about proposed code changes. So when we took office, we've mandated our new attorney to clean up our village code and come up with recommendations, vetting it through our planning office and our building department. So that's how these became on the discussion today. So we'll start off with the first one, June.
Number 16-2021, proposed amendment to 278 zoning, non-conforming buildings, structures, uses, and lots. The legislative purpose and intent. This legislation is intended to provide permitted enlargements, reconstruction, structural alterations, restoration or repair of non-conforming buildings and structures, uses, and lots. The current code language has caused confusion and/or prohibited both repair, reconstruction, and gradual conversion of such uses to conforming uses.
All right, anybody? Billy?
If you'd like, I can give you a brief introduction as to what the proposal is. So presently, the code is somewhat vague on non-conforming buildings containing conforming uses. And it's whether or not, so for an example is you have a single-family residence, the required setback is 20 feet, the building sits 10 feet from the side yard. If you want to make some repairs to your house or make some alterations, like rearrange a window, replace some rotten sills, or do some work like that, that's all perceived as, or meets the definition of alteration because it's structural work. And that type of work requires a variance before the zoning board. And the building department in the past has used their judgment in deciding which projects sort of tip the scale at needing a variance and what projects don't need a variance. And it's, using judgment like that is probably not the best, there's a clearer path than just using judgment. And that is by allowing folks to just make alterations to their house that if it doesn't increase the degree of nonconformity, so if the house doesn't get any closer to the property line, if it doesn't get any taller, if it doesn't get any wider, you're simply rearranging things or you're repairing some rotten wood. It's reasonable that those changes should be permitted without review by the zoning board. And so the draft code that was prepared here actually defines this specifically to non-conforming buildings containing conforming uses, and it specifically defines degree of nonconformity so that somebody can't enlarge the nonconforming portion of their house without a variance. It simply allows them to make changes, reconstruct, do things that won't increase the degree of nonconformity without a variance. This has been batted around for a number of years with the building department and myself, so it's just something that has come to the forefront now. If you have any questions, I could try to answer them for you.
I've just got one note, is that from being a member of the zoning board for a long time, this clogs up the zoning board agenda a lot, where there's a lot of non-conforming houses in the village. Maybe as many as half of them have some type of non-conformity, and to change out a window or do minor home repairs, to put the homeowner in the position to have to hire an attorney, surveys, building applications, it's a lot and it's unnecessary. So, I think this just cleans it up, and I also think that the building department always has the final say whether it's too much or they need to, talk to Tom and your team about if what they want to do is over the line of just simple repairs. So it's not like there's a stopgap here. I mean, they have to get a building permit anyway, and if it's something that doesn't work, then we'll know about it, and Tom, you can take care of it. That's my understanding.
Thank you, Mayor and Board of Trustees. So basically, we always like something to be more black and white, where it's not just, we want to have some type of consistency. And it appeared that some, things that are perceived as alterations might not necessarily really be an alteration, like to change a window, et cetera. This kind of clarifies it, and I spoke to Billy about this, and it puts the ZBA in a position that it's not so much rubber stamps. I mean, you're not going to say no to someone that's doing almost what's considered maintenance. So I think this clarifies it, and it is less, there'll be more continuity. There's not so much left to interpretation.
So, Tom, it would be, if somebody had a house that is 10 feet off the property line, and they want to replace the windows in kind, this would cover that?
It would, and it would also cover them just flipping window locations, perhaps, or a door.
But if they want to double the size of the windows.
Correct.
That would
Correct,
not-
because that is not really, if you look at the intent of the just zoning in general, and that you're not increasing nonconformity in those instances, and it seemed a little bit burdensome how it's, the things that I've seen that have gone to the ZBA prior to my arrival here. And I think it's in keeping with how things are interpreted in municipalities nearby, too.
Great. It sounds like this streamlines the process, makes it easier for the homeowners.
Right.
And takes a little bit off the ZBA.
ZBA. Any other questions?
I was just going to say, and the building department, because now they have, actual verbiage here that delineates exactly what the homeowner needs to do. And it's just in kind. It's not anything different than that. So, yeah, I'm in favor of it as well.
Okay. So can I get a motion? We'll put it on for public hearing.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next, June.
Intro number 17-2021, proposed amendment to Chapter 278 zoning to repeal certain limitations on permitted gross floor area.
Mr. Mayor, I'll take this one. What this does, as I've advised the board members already, is roll back the previously enacted gross floor area restrictions that were, well, one could say penalized larger lots. It goes back to what it was before the last set of amendments, and it just restores what was the prior code.
I remember when this was passed, there were a lot of people that said, what about the little lots? And,
Right.
so I haven't looked at this totally to see exactly what it would be, but I think it probably makes sense.
Yeah, it rolls it back to, it's actually the same as the little lots are
Right.
now, so.
That part hasn't changed this
Correct.
Yeah,
at all.
that doesn't change at all. Any other questions? All right, can I get a motion?
So move.
Second.
All right, so we'll schedule that for a public hearing.
Introductory number 18, 2021. Proposed amendment to 278 zoning to exempt handrails less than 12 inches wide, which are required by any New York State statutes, codes, rules, and/or regulations from the calculation of height of a structure.
Mr. Mayor, I'll take this one as well. This is, I guess, one of those, well, we're remedying unintended consequences, I believe. The situation was occurring where you might have a flat roof, and if you wanted to use that flat roof or any portion of it, the state requires you to have a handrail for safety purposes. The problem is if you tried to install that handrail, it then skewed your height or the height of, the calculated height of the dwelling and required you to go either for a variance or seek some other remedy. After talking with Tom, I think this is a common sense amendment, and again, just addresses probably what was an unintended consequence when the height requirement was passed.
Just want to add something quickly. Thank you again. So, in these instances where you're permitted within 9 feet of your maximum height to have a flat area, the code already has built into it that you'll be stepping back an additional 6 feet. So, you know, to address the concerns of, is someone going to be looming over a neighbor, the code already, you know, if you're going to utilize these lower areas, the code, you know, steps it back already.
So this is effectively allowing people who have small, flat roof sections on top of their house to put a widow's walk up or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, what was happening was that it was interpreted that the handrail would also, that would be the building height in that area. So
it's limiting the height of their roof rather than, and then the
Yeah,
top of the
so-
roof can only be here,
so
so
that-
they have to make the rails a foot or
Right,
however
and
feet higher
like,
than that.
for example, it really would mandate that where you stand is 3 feet lower than, you know, because of the 3-foot handrail.
Right.
It's measured to the rail.
Right. Now, would this handrail have any requirements on it? Would it have to be like balusters and see-through, or could it be a solid wall?
Well, no, I mean, it's basically the state requirements. They can be see-through. You can't have spaces larger than.
Because I think a
4
solid wall
inches.
would kind of obviate the desire to limit the height. I would think that a see-through railing, I could certainly understand that.
I think we have it, Vinnie, did we put 12 inches?
We did.
Yeah.
It couldn't exceed 12 inches in width.
12 inches, so, I mean, the way it is now, it could end up being a
solid wall.
solid wall,
And I don't
like
think,
similar to a parapet.
yeah, I don't think we'd want to see that.
Understood.
You know, because again, we've limited the height, and now we would then be allowing a solid structure 3 feet above the height that we limited.
Understood, that might be something we want to look at and, build in. I mean, really what comes to mind are glass rails, for example. They're see-through, or just, handrails, but, yeah, you might want to
Yeah,
limit
I
it.
think we ought to think about that a little bit, as to where we are and what it might look like. I know that when we discussed this thing, we had some drawings about what it would look like. Maybe if we got some drawings to see what it would look like with various other types of railings, it might give us a bit of a sense of what we'd be looking at. And have we had anybody that wanted to do this yet? Or is this just?
It has come up.
Okay.
Yes, it has.
How often?
But,
How many flat roofs?
not very often, but it does, and actually, the one of late is a glass one. So you're not even gonna see it. So it was, you know, and in keeping with, to be consistent with how, before I came, it was interpreted that the glass is your limiting factor on the height, and it's maybe not, you know, not fair or.
Yeah, but with glass, you could get glare too.
Yeah, that's.
You know, you
true.
get a reflection
That's-
right
that's-
into somebody's
that's
living room.
Yep, that's a point as well.
You know, so I think we need to, I'm not against this in principle, but I think there may be some more unintended consequences that we haven't thought about.
Understood.
And so when we come to the public hearing, we can discuss that.
Right.
Correct.
Anyone else? All right, so I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next, June.
Introductory number 19-2021, proposed amendment to zoning 278-2A7 to add E, accessory dwelling unit.
Mr. Mayor, as you're aware, this would permit accessory dwelling units in the R80 or R160 residential districts where there's a primary single-family residence. It's subject to some very strict conditions, however. First, no more than 2 bedrooms. Second, you can't exceed maximum ground floor area for accessory structures, but we would still count it toward the ground floor area of the principal structure. Occupancy is limited to family or guests of the occupants of the single-family residence or employees working on the premises or in the primary dwelling unit. The accessory dwelling unit can't be rented separately from the primary dwelling unit, and it has to meet the setback requirements of the principal structure to help mitigate any potential adverse impacts. There would also be a requirement for recording a declaration of covenants and restrictions, which the property owner would agree to all of those conditions, and they would have to abide by them. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
What about enforcement, Attorney?
What about enforcement
What about
specifically?
enforcement? So let's say somebody they've got a 2-acre property and they put up a 2-acre guest house and they promise that only guests and family will live there.
Right.
And then somebody finds out that somebody other than family as guests is living there. How do we enforce that?
It's no different than enforcing, for example, a prohibited accessory apartment within a principal structure. You know, you go through the code enforcement process. There's due process afforded in the court system, and it goes forward based on that.
So could we have them covenant that they would allow code enforcement to come in every other year to, you know, vet that?
I don't know that you could do that. That's been deemed in some cases to be an illegal search, violative of the Constitution. But we can look at, we can examine any kind of inspection scenario, at least in the beginning. But again, who occupies is not wouldn't be part of the inspection process in the beginning, right? Because it's vacant at the time.
Right.
So, you know, you just have to covenant. Once they covenant, it's a violation, both of the local law as well as the covenants, and it would enable the village not only to take criminal enforcement action, criminal being, you know, the code enforcement route, but you could also go then the civil route as well, get an injunction in state Supreme Court.
So we could remove the accessory use for that property? If they were in
Ultimately, you
violation?
could remove the accessory use. More important, however, is that you could enjoin the accessory use very quickly by going into court.
Okay. I did notice that we're talking about 40,000 square feet, which is a little less than an acre.
I think we were 80 was
We
what we
rewrote that.
intended, right?
It's
Yeah.
2 acres, minimum 2 acres.
So it should
Okay,
be
great.
80. I
Billy, talk about
apologize.
the IA impacts on this, too.
So, so if somebody proposed to build, you know, use this provision, either construct one or convert a building into an accessory dwelling unit, they would have to install an innovative alternative septic system. We talked about the idea of then mandating the entire property, all the buildings on the property, so that principal residents also being required to upgrade to an innovative alternative septic system if they don't already have one. So it's it could be a capture mechanism.
Yeah, which I think would go a long way in protecting our
Yeah.
waters, because
Could the
this is
two-
a great option for big lot owners to have a second
Yeah, oh, yeah,
living
absolutely.
quarters.
Whether they want caregivers for
Exactly.
elderly people, I mean, I think this is a great idea.
And then
But can
capture the whole house.
Can the two residences, the accessory and the main, can they share the same system?
Yes, they could if they're in close proximity to one another.
Okay.
And if it's designed properly, yeah, they could.
All right, and one other thing that we had talked about at one point, some time ago, is allowing people to take these accessory structures and use them for workforce housing. I don't know how many people would want to do that.
You mean like a property manager?
No, like regular workforce housing.
Like a rental, what
Like a
Tiger's
rental.
probably saying is just being able to rent it
But,
to
oh,
non-family.
but qualifying as,
Qualified by
Yeah.
Tom Rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't
problem-
we didn't go that far.
Tiger, I love the idea. I think the problem that we will face is that R80 and higher is south of the highway lots, and I don't think
They may not
property
want.
owners are gonna want
Right.
Section 8 type housing. Maybe they would, and it'd be
Yeah.
great, but
But I mean,
would
that you
think
could
it's-
also include it for, cops and school teachers.
Well, it would be up to property owner. Again, that would be up to them. And I don't know.
Well, they're not allowed to do it the way it's written here.
Right.
We'd have to
Well,
put
for
that in
friends
the
and
code.
family, they would. For family.
Friends and family, so.
Right.
And people who work for them.
or, yeah, so like a
So-
property
Yeah.
manager.
Right.
That was like
Yeah.
the intent, part of it was they would house their property manager.
All
or
right, well, we
something
can,
like
we can worry about that workforce housing part. We don't have to do everything all at once.
I agree with you.
Right, we
Yeah.
can always, if we
We can
found
always
people
revisit
wanted that,
if-
we
yeah,
could
if
tweak
people
it.
want that.
Right.
Or perhaps we could put in that if people apply, the village can consider.
It's really not a public hearing, it's,
I just wanted to correct something, just about the affordable housing stuff. Chris, you know I love you. The affordable housing isn't for Section 8. It's governed by the town. It's workforce housing.
Right.
So I don't
Okay.
want,
I
I don't
understand.
want
Just-
that lasting impression to be out there that if you have this, because I think it's a good thing you're exploring it, that it would be, welfare. It's not.
No, it's
the-
not Section 8.
Right, it's affordable
Yeah.
housing, workforce
Yeah, I-
housing. Just,
All right,
yeah.
no, mine-
Yeah.
And you
You
can't
just
prohibit Section 8
yeah,
anyway
misspoke,
under
so-
federal
No,
law,
no, it
let's be
doesn't mean
clear.
you wouldn't have it, but I'm just saying, I want that to be the lasting
Yeah.
impression.
No Section 8.
Because it's not always a favorable one.
Okay, well, we can continue to discuss this when it comes to the hearing.
Sure.
all right, so can I get a motion?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, schedule that one, June.
Introductory number 20-2121, proposed amendment to zoning 278-3A9B to exempt elevated walkways or accessways, including stairways, built by an individual property owner for the purpose of non-commercial access to the beach, calculation of height of a structure.
Thank you. Two things with respect to this. The walkways, let me address that first. That's perhaps the simplest one. I think this emanates from situations where smaller property owners get unnecessarily penalized. And again, I don't ever think it was the intent of the underlying legislation to do so, because walkways over the dunes are being counted within the calculation of coverage. And this would exempt those walkways from that calculation exactly as a postman's walkway does already in the code. So it does that. The other thing it does is it rolls back in accordance, or in being consistent with the GFA rollback, it rolls back the coverage requirements. Again, small lots are treated exactly the same, and it just eliminates the penalty on larger lots. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
How many lots would this affect?
You mean in terms of coverage or the walkways?
the walkways?
A handful so far is is what I've been advised of.
I
And
know that-
comes from, my colleagues in the profession who have had that frustration.
I know the state requires that walkways be 4 feet over the dune.
I think that's correct.
I would love to get rid of that requirement.
Become governor.
Not gonna happen.
One never knows.
I can guarantee you that one. I'm a Republican in New York State. That's not gonna happen.
Don't tell that to Congressman Zeldin, all right?
Okay. We should schedule this for here.
I make a motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, June.
Intro, number 21-2021. Proposed amendment to Chapter 104, Code Enforcement Administration, to increase the permit fee by 100% whenever the work subject to a permit has been started prior to the issuance of the permit.
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Those that ask for forgiveness instead of permission are gonna pay double.
Right.
And the town does this as well.
We agree, Tom.
Best presentation of the day, Tom.
I'm sorry.
Motion to accept.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next, June. Thanks, Tom. Well done.
Introductory number 22-2021. A proposed amendment to zoning 278-6 zoning parking requirements, general provisions, to provide a waiver of parking requirements for workforce housing constructed in close proximity to mass transportation facilities.
Both the village planner and I will take, I guess, different parts of this. The latter part of this exempts from parking requirements workforce housing that's utilized essentially within 500 feet of a transportation facility. This is really consistent with the overall planning concept, and Bill could speak to it better than I can probably, definitely, with respect to what's called transit-oriented development. And the idea is that if you're close to those types of facilities, you're going to be utilizing those facilities, there's less need for parking. And it encourages the development of workforce housing within the village. Bill, you want to take it for the rest?
Sure. In addition to that change, this proposal accomplishes 3 other objectives. It redefines intensification. So currently, the code, there's a definition for intensification, but it doesn't, the inclusions and exclusions are sometimes interpreted as being vague, and it doesn't include redevelopment or reconstruction. So if somebody reconstructs in kind in place, which is a project that occurred at 21 Newtown Lane, and we've had other commercial properties recently come in and ask to reconstruct after the life expectancy of a building expires, they have to rebuild. The code is somewhat vague as to whether or not you have to comply with the parking regulations when all you're doing is rebuilding what you legally have. So this clarifies that reconstruction can occur without compliance with the parking regulations, but it also reinforces what activities must comply with the parking regulations, which was also a little bit vague in the past. As council said, it eliminates the requirement to obtain a variance if somebody proposes workforce housing. I think the village is aware that we've entered into agreement with the town to manage workforce housing apartments. Should somebody propose one? We had one for Mr. Trunzo that was approved. He's been going through the health department process, and I think he's getting close to the end. And actually, when he proposed his building, the village changed the code to waive the parking fees for workforce housing. This takes it a little step further and it waives the parking fee, but it says you don't have to get a variance, because it's obvious that we want to encourage these things, so why make somebody get a variance for a workforce housing, a regulated workforce housing apartment?
And Billy, sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
that property building is located within what this scope of this law would?
Yes, it would.
Yes,
Yep.
it is.
Yep, it is. And the code already waives the fee for, like, for Trunzo's property, so.
We approved that variance
Yep.
in the same location.
Yep. This changes the variance fee for non-workforce housing, so if somebody applies to the zoning board for a parking variance, the current parking fee or variance fee is $10,000 per parking space. I believe that was instituted in 1997, if I'm correct. It hasn't been changed since. And so the proposal would make the fee $20,000. And as a way of reference, the town of East Hampton's parking fee currently is $15,000 for a fee in lieu of parking. So it puts us more on par with what the town charges for a parking variance fee. And finally, it revises the unit requirements, where if somebody has an existing commercial building and they'd like to divide the space up into more than one unit or business, it eliminates the requirement to provide 2 additional parking spaces per unit. And the theory being that parking requirements are generated by the size of the building or by occupancy limits based on, your seating capacity in a restaurant or the size of a building. Like a retail store has to provide 1 space per 200 square feet of floor area. I don't know if there's a real good basis for requiring 2 extra spaces just because there's an extra business occupying, that individual building. I think it's based on the success of the business, really, is what the parking demand is, rather than, just a kind of an arbitrary, requirement for extra spaces per units. And that has come up as an issue, an obstacle for property owners that want to divide up their space. So this would eliminate that requirement.
And to your point, I think that we want to try to encourage, small businesses
Yep.
and shops
Yep.
to flourish in the village. And certainly if you have a big, building and you can't divide it up because of the parking requirement, then you're really just going to be getting some of these bigger companies and
yeah.
so forth.
Yep.
So this would be another way for them to do that, for us to allow them to have more smaller businesses.
Smaller and mixed uses.
And
that
mixed
would-
uses,
yep,
correct.
Which is good, yeah.
So that makes sense as well.
I'm a little concerned about the elimination of parking requirements in the transit area. A lot of our workforce housing is not likely to be using public transit, and a lot of our workforce housing may be in the landscaping trade, and they may have even more requirements for parking.
Well, it doesn't eliminate it only eliminates the need to provide parking for the actual apartment. So if somebody proposes a new apartment, right now they have to provide 2 parking spaces for that apartment. The code presently, if you have to obtain a variance for the workforce housing apartment for those 2 parking spaces, such as Mr. Trunzo did, the code already waives the variance fee for it. So this would take it a step further and just waive the requirement for parking for the apartments. I think if somebody has the space to provide the parking, I think it's in their best interest to provide the parking space for their tenant. I don't think it's going to be a situation where people are going to, I don't think we're going to have a flurry of workforce housing apartments where people are going to opt to not provide parking if they can.
And there's only so many places you could put those within 500 feet of
Yeah.
what are presently existed transportation
Yes.
centers anyway, right?
That's correct.
So you're talking about the train station?
Train station, yeah.
And so 500 feet from the train station, everything around that area.
It's pretty much Railroad Avenue area, yeah.
Yeah.
All the
Would the
way to
jitney
Lumber
stop
Lane?
qualify?
Yeah, part of Lumber Lane would qualify. I'm sorry?
Does the jitney stop qualify?
Not the stop, if there were like what's traditionally called a bus depot or something along those lines, yeah, but not a bus stop.
Yeah.
Or,
I mean-
same thing, by the way, with respect to a public bus stop,
Yeah.
for Suffolk County Transit.
Right, we have one right there at Herrick Park, so that would not be included, just to
Correct.
be clear in this.
Correct.
Thanks, Billy. Nicely done. You get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next June.
Introductory number 23-2021, a proposed amendment to 267-7A vehicles and traffic, parking time limited in designated locations to address parking and traffic flow issues on Fithian Lane.
Chief, you want to talk about it? Sorry to wake you.
He doesn't want to talk about it.
Takes a little while. Fithian Lane, we were asked to look all around the village, basically, at finding additional parking areas, as parking is at a premium, and Fithian was one of the ones that we looked at. Alongside the spot that we're going to be talking about, we have London Jewelers. We have a driveway that goes behind Rowdy Hall, and directly across from the spot we're going to be talking about, we have Citarella, and which is often occluded, and the back parking lot is jammed quite often. There are spots alongside Citarella that are set back from Main Street. They don't begin I think it's 48 feet from Main Street, and then there's several spots to the driveway of Citarella, and then beyond that, as everyone knows, it's a one-way street. So what we were looking at is right alongside the VFW building itself, there's an area which we could utilize for parking, but we don't want to interfere with Main Street, the curb, the sidewalk, or the crosswalk. So what we did is we took the same setback that is on what I'll call the north side of Fithian and used that same setback so that when you turn right onto Fithian from Main Street, you will not be able to park, as you cannot park now, to a certain distance. Then there will be an area for approximately 3 parking spaces. Then it will stop. There'll be no parking just before the parking lot entrance to the rear of the VFW. So the reason we stopped it is because you would not be able to pull out of that parking lot. What's the matter? I was...
VFW, it's just like...
London Jewelers.
London Jewelers, VFW. Okay, all right.
It's sad we all knew what you were talking
and
about.
then it... Boax. Then it continues down the remainder of Fithian Lane. There's a restriction on parking, and that continues until it reaches Egypt Lane. So it's really the adding of 3 spots. The road there is wide enough to get a box truck through. We don't see any problem in terms of the distance. It won't have any impact on Main Street because of the setback. And so we measured that all out for the board, and we gave it to the attorney to double-check the specs. And that's really what we have, what you're looking at.
Perfect.
And this won't impact the store that is in the lower level of the London Jewelers building?
No, there's no
They have that
parking there.
ramp down
Yeah,
the
there's
side?
no parking there now. It starts after that.
Okay.
We use the same setback that the prior village administration did when they designed the parking spaces alongside the grocery.
Mm-hmm.
We use the same setback on the other side, so we wouldn't impact also the crosswalk and curb cut down. So it should work well.
So Chief, you're gaining 3 spots?
Yeah,
Approximately
3 spots.
3, depending on the size of the vehicles.
That's great. That's a bonus right there.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about diagonal parking. I've often thought that Fithian could be possibly a street that we could do diagonal parking. I'm in and out of, Fithian Lane
Right.
a lot.
Yeah.
But this could maybe accomplish the same goal. I hadn't thought about that. I also have thought by the post office, Gay Lane could also be another area for diagonal parking. It's so awkward to parallel park your car, to the left on the driver's side. So
We would grab Mr. Collins and his tape measure for that project, without a doubt, so,
well, something to consider going forward.
great. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. So would we need a motion on that?
Motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So it's a lot of public hearings coming up. That's it, right, June?
Yes.
All right, so before we go on, does anybody have any public comments that are not related to this that they wanted to address the board on before we move to the agenda? All right, June, we're ready.
Okay. Approve claim vouchers for the month of July.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Approve warrants number 66, 68, 69 from the general fund, 65 and number 70 from the trust fund, and 67 from LoSAP.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Approve budget transfer schedules, which will be provided after the closing of the fiscal year.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Authorize the village administrator to transfer funds as necessary to close the fiscal year ending July 31st, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Approve departmental reports.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Approve August 1st, 2021 to July 31st, 2022 employment agreements with the listed employees.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Appoint Deputy Mayor Chris Minardi of the Beach Committee.
Is it beach committee or beach
Liaison.
liaison?
Liaison.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Adopt introductory number 14-2021 as local law number 17-2021, hereby amending Chapter 185, licensed occupations and entertainment by adding Article 5, caterers, to address licensing requirements.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Adopt a negative CEQA declaration in reference to introductory number 15-2021.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Adopt introductory number 15-2021 as local law number 18-2021, hereby amending Chapter 233 sanitary systems to require septic systems to be replaced with IA systems upon failure.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Adopt resolution number 49-2021, hereby changing the name of Cross Road to Privet Lane.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Adopt resolution number 50-2021, hereby amending the 2021 budget to increase estimated revenue and appropriations in the amount of $141,858.60 related to police officer John Marshall.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Adopt resolution number 50-2021, hereby amending the 2020-2021 budget to increase estimated revenue and appropriations in the amount of $64,316.26 related to monthly beach passes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Adopt resolution number 54-2021 to amend the 2020-2021 budget to increase estimated revenue and appropriations in the amount of $568,575 related to the town pond dredging and reimbursement received from the East Hampton Town CPF.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Adopt resolution number 50-2021, authorizing the transfer up to $750,000 from the undesignated fund balance to the capital reserve fund.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Adopt resolution number 56-2021 to approve the transfer of $175,000 from the capital reserve fund to the general fund for the expenditures related to the DPW roof project.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Approve the annual service agreement for the period of July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022 with Motorola for maintenance and service for the headquarters base station backup consoles in the amount of $42,725.83 as per Chief Tracy's July 12th memo.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Approve the annual maintenance agreement for August 1st, 2021 through July 31st, 2022 for Police Department software with Larimore Associates in the amount of $45,582 as per Chief Tracy's July 12th memo.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Adopt resolution number 52-2021, approving the 4% increase in police officer John Clark's base salary as per the PBA contract for college credits, effective August 1st, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Employ 2021 seasonal beach staff at the hourly rates listed, effective August 1st. Substitute lifeguards Luke Tarbett at $16.50, Julia Erickson at $17, John Tarbett, Zach DeSario, and Eugene De Pasquale at $18.50, and Ethan Rosenberg at $20.50, and beach staff Naya Minardi at $12.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Employ Victoria Field as a seasonal guide at Hook Mill at $15 per hour.
So moved.
Second.
Passed, all in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Jump the gun, Jerry. There you go, Jim.
Deem surplus and approve the online auction sale disposal of Village Hall's 2013 Rico copier, tag number 2040.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Notice for a public hearing to be held on August 20th, 2021 at 11 a.m. at the EMS building for introductory number 16-2021, a proposed amendment to Chapter 278 to clarify the definition of non-conforming buildings, structures, uses, and lots, and permitted enlargements, reconstruction, structural alterations, restoration, or repair of same.
So moved.
Second.
Question real quick. We already did all these.
If you want to take them in one motion, just.
Yeah, let's just do them in one motion because we.
That probably makes sense.
Second.
Notice for public hearing on August 20th, 2021, introductory number 17, number 18, number 19, number 20, 21, 22, and 23. Thank you again.
We get a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Adopt resolution number 53-2021, hereby amending the conditions of employment to add the federal holiday Juneteenth.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 34, approve amendment to the March 26, 2021 agreement with Saunders Broadcasting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
And that's it.
No, there's one more add on 32.
I didn't get that one.
Jackie Rivers LLC, social media consultant.
I have an old agenda. I didn't give myself one, sorry.
I didn't get that one. It's okay.
Approve Jackie
Social
Rivers
media
LLC as social
Mayor's
media
request.
consultant at $40 per hour, maximum of $2,000 annually.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. All right, that concludes our long meeting. We are now going to take a short break, and then we're going to go into executive session to talk about litigation and real estate. If there's anything to report to Jamie, I will get back to us.
Trustee copier.
Can I get a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? All righty, thanks, everybody, whoever's left.
Or awake.
I'm gonna just go do some photos with the families. I'll be right back.